After being taken in by a billionaire, he presented my brother and me with two choices. One was to become his adopted child, and the other was to receive financial support for our education. My brother didn't waste any time and quickly dubbed him Dad, eager to join the wealthy family. "Even if you snag a spot at Harvard one day, you'll still be working for me," he remarked. However, the billionaire already had his own children, and my brother, just a pretend rich kid, didn't get any special treatment. Eventually, he got kidnapped and badly injured. Meanwhile, I hit the books hard for years, secured a place at Harvard, and ultimately found myself kidnapped and seriously hurt as well. I persisted, completed my master's on the fast track, and landed a role as an executive in the billionaire's company with a six-figure paycheck. The day the billionaire invited me to a formal dinner, my brother lost it, trying to drag me into a deadly situation. I woke up to find ourselves back on the day of the billionaire's offer. This time, my brother pushed me forward. "Knowledge is power. I'm going to school. Sis, you should call him Dad." I almost stumbled from his shove. In that stunned moment, I realized I'd been given a second chance, reborn right at that critical juncture in our lives. "Sir, my sister is scared of struggling. She keeps saying she wants to be a rich kid. Live the good life. Please, take her as your daughter. I love learning, and I'm not afraid of hard work. I know education can change our fate, so I choose school." Listening to my brother, the billionaire seemed impressed with him. "Me? Not so much. You can come with me. But let me be clear, being my daughter isn't about living in luxury. There's no free pass. Every month, I'll only give you $50,000 for living expenses. Anything more is on you." When my brother heard that, he flinched but then scoffed in disdain. In my previous life, the billionaire didn't set such tight restrictions when he adopted. So, with a credit card in hand, my brother spent money recklessly on parties and fun until the billionaire stepped in, capping the monthly limit at $50,000. But now, he twisted the narrative to make it seem like I was the one who was lazy and only after the high life, instantly tarnishing the billionaire's view of me. He didn't bother to test me this time. "Sis, you're screwed this time," my brother taunted with a smug grin, as if he'd already won. I stayed calm. It's all about determination. The billionaire just wanted to help us because he felt sorry for us. It's up to us how we walk our path. I took a step forward and bowed in gratitude. "Dad, I don't need that much. Just give me $20,000 a month." Where we lived, the average salary was just over $5,000, so $20,000 seemed more than enough. Back when I was studying, the billionaire only covered tuition, and I had to hustle for living expenses. It was tough. When someone was just trying to be nice, it felt wrong to take advantage, so I cut his offer in half. My brother was shocked but still sneered. "Mr. Billionaire, my sister is really scared of hardship, but she's also pretty sharp. She knows asking for too much money right off the bat can rub people the wrong way." At the orphanage, when folks brought gifts and snacks, she'd say no at first. After a few visits, they started seeing her as considerate. Once her image was set, she'd start asking for money. She was the first to get a tablet. He just kept throwing shade at me for reasons I couldn't figure out back then. When given the choice, I let him go first, worried he'd suffer otherwise. In truth, the billionaire's initial interest was in me. Before adoption, wealthy folks do their homework. My grades were top-notch, and my character solid. The principal and teachers wouldn't lie about that. But for my brother, I let the adoption slip away. Once he was part of that rich family, our contact ended. He probably feared I'd ask him for money, always telling me he was broke. Forget the 10 grand champagne or the crowd cheering around him. But I didn't hold it against him. Once I knew he was doing fine, I let it go. That was until years later when he called me out of the blue, furious. He called me a monster for letting him choose first. He blamed me for not warning him about the billionaire's real daughter and how he soon lost favor, ending up kidnapped and wheelchair-bound. He said he hated me. I was busy getting my master's. My first instinct was to rush to see him, but I'd grown wiser, less sentimental. Remembering how he treated me after being adopted, I realized he'd changed. So I told him to take care and follow the doctor's advice. Ending the call. Life moved on. After graduating, a company offered me a huge salary. I was pumped until I got there and realized it was the billionaire's company. Turns out, he'd been keeping tabs on me ever since that day. He liked my work and wanted me on his team. even mentioning how he originally wanted me as his daughter. Now we couldn't be family, but I could be a trusted employee. But at the dinner, when I saw my brother after years, he wasn't happy for me. He was envious and took me to the rooftop, blaming me for stealing his chance, saying he was meant to be the one in school and that I had ruined his life. That's when I fully understood him. Not feeling the need to explain, I just turned to leave. But he was too far gone in his rage and pulled us right off the roof. Deep breath, back to. Just as I was about to defend myself, the head of the orphanage approached. Welcome, Mr. Carter. Thank you for your kindness and support. Have you chosen an adoptee? Maya is very well behaved, loved by teachers and kids alike, and has strong academic talents with her sights set on Harvard. My name is Maya, so no need for me to push myself forward. The rich guy looked at me suspiciously after hearing the story. Maya, are you really that good at the orphanage? She's tight with the director. My younger brother immediately chimed in, worried I might win him over. My sister often plays chess with the director. They're really close. The director, of course, picked up on the situation and understood my brother's little scheme. He interrupted with an awkward cough and then smiled. Maya is excellent at chess. Mr. Carter, judging people isn't just about words. I think you'll soon realize how right your choice is. The rich guy nodded in agreement. His expression softened as he patted my shoulder. All right, Maya, let's go. He led me out of the orphanage. A luxury car was parked at the door. As I was about to get in, my brother dashed over, bumping into me, and quickly opened the passenger door. Mr. Rich Guy, please. The rich guy was slightly taken aback but politely declined. Thanks, but I don't sit in the front seat. My brother's smile froze. I opened the car door and casually remarked, the seat behind the driver is the safest. Dad, hop in. The rich guy nodded in approval, and we left the orphanage together. Through the car window, I saw my brother sporting a wicked, triumphant grin, almost as if he was saying, let's see how you can compete with me in this life. I found it laughable. A person who just wants to enjoy life, would they really buckle down and learn? Doesn't my brother realize that being offered a spot wasn't something that just fell into my lap? The rich guy lived in Grandview Manor. I'd been here in my past life, so it wasn't much of a shock for me. I acted pretty chill and didn't try to hide it, which surprisingly made the rich guy happier with me. Turns out, he'd been secretly watching my reactions from the start. Maya, being my daughter means being calm and composed. I liked how you carried yourself today. Thanks, Dad. What do you think about your brother, Ethan? I answered without thinking. He's still immature. The rich guy said good, twice in a row. Not bad. Maya, I like your personality. Tell the kitchen to prepare a little extra. I want to have a drink and chat with my daughter today. The kid's still in high school. Drinking? Really? His wife, Mrs. Thompson, frowned. She then warmly came to my side. Your name's Maya, right? So nice to meet you. From now on, you can call me Mom. Mom, oh, this kid is such a sweetheart. Come, let me show you your room. Mrs. Thompson took me to the bedroom and kindly told me not to feel too confined. It might feel strange initially, but you'll get used to it. I nodded earnestly, but my eyes got misty. Our biological parents died in a car accident when Ethan and I were just a few years old. Our relatives said raising a girl was too hard and no one wanted to take us in. Less than a month after our parents passed, we were sent to the orphanage. Sometimes kind visitors would come to see us. Some would even smile and ask me to call them Mom. Each time, I'd respond with the sweetest voice. Growing up in that environment, we learned a skill called pleasing others. We had to make people happy so they would donate, and we could have enough to eat and new clothes to wear. I had never experienced maternal love. Seeing Mrs. Thompson with her kind smile broke down my defenses. So this is what motherly love feels like? It's really this warm? I never envied Ethan, but now I did. I envied his chance in his previous life to have such a gentle, caring mom. Seeing me tear up, Mrs. Thompson assured me, while her own eyes got misty. Maya, come on, let's eat. At the dinner table, Mr. Carter pushed a glass of wine toward me. Mrs. Thompson frowned and told him, I said no, the kid's still young and in school. Wine's not good for the brain. Mr. Carter looked at me for a while before asking, do you remember my condition before you and your brother chose Dad? I remember. Choosing to be your daughter means automatically giving up on school, exactly because having both would make the choice meaningless. So this wine is to cut off that other path. The start of a new life. Mrs. Thompson grasped his meaning, quickly questioning Mr. Carter. Is that necessary? Maya is so obedient and smart. If she doesn't go to school, she's no different from a fool. That's the rule of the game. If she continues her schooling, what will her brother think? What about my authority? But Mrs. Thompson wanted to speak up for me. I knew the rich guy was in a tough spot. He'd already made himself clear. If being adopted meant continuing schooling, there'd be no point in choosing not to. Mom, let's listen to Dad. It's fairer this way. I lifted the glass and downed it in one go. The alcohol burned my throat, making me cough. Mr. Carter and Mrs. Thompson just sat there, staring at me silently. Ugh? Mrs. Thompson sighed, feeling it was unfair, or maybe thinking I was someone with potential, and now it would be wasted. Mr. Carter took a long breath. Maya, listen and be a good girl. Being my daughter means you won't struggle. I nodded, then asked, Dad, can I take the college entrance exam? Mr. Carter frowned. Didn't you understand what I said? I got it. I won't go to school. I just want to experience the exam atmosphere. It's a life-changing moment for most, isn't it? Let her do it, Mrs. Thompson urged. Students burn the midnight oil just to stand out in the exam. Mr. Carter, with his wealth, just couldn't grasp the typical importance of exams. You're just halfway through your sophomore year. If you skip all those years and take the exam, what's the point? Aren't you afraid people will laugh at you? I'm not, I answered seriously. All right, go ahead then, as long as you can handle what's coming. Thanks, Dad. I got up with excitement and bowed to Mr. Carter. In my last life, I got into Harvard with my stellar grades. Didn't even need to take the Gaokao. But I was curious about my abilities, so after the Gaokao, I looked up the real exam papers online and gave it a go. When I estimated my score, I figured I could easily get at least 700. You could say those exam questions were etched in my brain. With a max score of 750, if I didn't score at least 740, it felt like I wasn't respecting myself. Even though I'd been reborn, even if my choices were forced, the reins of fate were always in my hands. Apparently, my brother didn't see this coming. He texted me out of the blue. Bet that billionaire's house is huge, huh? Feels good, right? But guess what? He has a real daughter overseas. You'll never be the favorite. Since you're my real sister, I'll spill a secret. His daughter loves people with high emotional intelligence. He's trying to get me killed. Even though I didn't live with Mr. Carter in my previous life, I knew a lot about Ethan's situation because I worried about him. Mr. Carter is big on charity, a real humanitarian. Mrs. Thompson is warm and kind, but their daughter, Isabella, has jealousy and possessiveness issues. Once she found out about her adopted brother, she wasn't having it. She was scared her brother would get all the attention and future inheritance. Honestly, he might have been involved in Ethan's kidnapping in our past life too. He wants me to be emotionally intelligent. The higher the emotional intelligence, the bigger the target on your back. The best move is not to compete, but to walk away. Get into college through Gaokao and pursue the path I once took. Sometimes you gotta see things for what they are. An adopted kid is adopted. A real child is real. Trying to force yourself into a place you don't belong is just bad news. Hey sis, I'll scout ahead for you, just hang tight. Not long after my brother texted, my phone rang with a deep female voice that didn't sound friendly. You're the orphan named Maya. Hello, may I ask who this is? Maya, the eldest daughter of the Carter family. Nice to meet you, miss. That miss threw her off. She was silent on the line for a long time. Maya, I hear my dad adopted you. That's right, mister. Carter did take me in as his daughter. All right, let me make this clear. You're just the adopted one. Don't push it. I'm the real daughter, of course. Miss, I'm aware of that, which is why I always call you miss. Relax. After I finish the Gaokao, I'll leave this city. Gaokao? Your brother said by choosing to be adopted, you automatically gave up your studies. Are you messing with me? Not at all. I even discussed this with Mr. Carter today. The agreement was not to go to school, not that I couldn't take the Gaokao. Huh? You're not in school, but you plan to take the Gaokao? You think I'll believe that? I have always excelled academically. Even if it's just been half a year, there's no way I'd score 0. Even if it's only community college. I'll go. You serious? Every word's true, I swear. And miss, you don't need to stress about the inheritance. I know my place. I'm grateful enough that Mr. Carter is willing to support me. All right, Maya, here's my offer. As long as you go off to college after the Gaokao, I'll cover your living expenses, 80K a month. Thanks, miss. I really appreciate it. After hanging up, I let out a sigh of relief and smiled. That's fate for you. Good people get good things. If I take the Gaokao, no matter how well I do, my brother will definitely stir up trouble. He'll accuse the billionaire family of not keeping their promise. So out of obligation, the family might stop financially supporting me. That's when Isabella steps in. Dear brother, in our last life, you couldn't top me. And in this one, you won't either. Keep working hard, burning the midnight oil. You can do it on my phone. My brother had sent a pic of his shabby dorm under cheap, incandescent light. He was studying hard while his roommates played on their phones or smoked, serving as a stark contrast. The angle was perfect, making him stand out in stark difference. Soon after, he started commenting on his own post. Study is the only way, believe it or not. My sis chose luxury over learning. Do you guys think I made the wrong choice? Someone replied, you're insane. Isn't the end goal of school luxury? Nope, school is about finding self-worth. Luxury is the lowest goal. I'm not like my sis, let her enjoy it. I took a closer look at my brother's comments. They were all from his sock puppet accounts talking to each other. He wasn't dumb. He definitely knew the rich families were keeping an eye on me posting that must be a show for their benefit. Moments later, I couldn't see that post anymore. Yup, likely he made it visible only to certain folks. I don't pay attention to little clowns like that. It's all settled after the Gaokao. Ever since moving into Mr. Carter's place, he gave me $50K each month at the beginning. I hardly went out, just stayed home and helped with chores. Just my way of giving back a little. One day, Mrs. Thompson came over with a smile, taking my broom away. Maya, we have help for the housework. No need for you to do it. I've noticed you haven't gone out in almost a month. Why don't you get some fresh air? I smiled warmly and said, Mom, I don't really know where to go, so I haven't ventured out. Mrs. Thompson pondered for a bit and then had an idea. How about today? Since I have free time, I can take you somewhere fun. Sure. Mrs. Thompson took me to an amusement park and then to a shooting range to teach me how to shoot. Once we were tired from playing, she treated me to a feast with dishes I'd never tried before. After the meal, I jumped ahead to pay the bill. Mrs. Thompson paused for a moment and said, Maya, when you're with Mom, there's no need to spend your pocket money. I looked at her seriously. Mom, I'm just happy you could take some time to go out with me today. I have money, and it's only right for me to treat you to dinner. Mrs. Thompson patted my head and said, if only your big sister had your sense. She's always asking me for money. You're the sensible one, Maya. Mrs. Thompson had shared stories about her daughter with me since the day after I came to live with her. She'd always been honest with me. No secrets at all. Later that evening, I noticed Mrs. Thompson posted something online. It was a photo album full of pictures from our day out, captioned, relaxing and fun weekend, even got fed by my daughter. I thought it was just a simple post, but little did I know, my brother turned it into a big deal. He commented underneath, congratulations to Mrs. Thompson for adopting a child who is sensible and smart. There's no one more filial than my sister. It must be destiny. With my sister's personal ability, I believe she will shine in the Carter group. His comment stirred things up. After that, he privately messaged me, why did she never take me out like that in our past life? She never smiled like that or acknowledged me. Why do you get to have this? I'm struggling in school, but I can't stand seeing you have it easier than me. You sneaky little thing. You're impressive for winning someone's heart in just over a month. But don't get too happy. There's a great danger you don't even notice. The danger he mentioned likely referred to Carter's biological daughter and the kidnapping that left him injured in a past life. There's no point in debating with someone so ignorant. He ignored me in the past life, and in this life, I don't want to deal with him either. But his comments forced Isabella to rush back from abroad. Her eyes were filled with hostility and rejection. Hello, miss. Why call her miss? She's your big sister, missus. Lucy laughed, pulling Isabella over to introduce us. Isabella glared at me and shook off Mrs. Lucy's hand with disdain. Mom, do you need another daughter? What's the point of adopting another? What are you saying? Maya lost her parents when she was young, and we're just helping her out. Helping with what? She doesn't even go to school. What can she possibly become? Mom, send her to school right away. I'll pay for her. After she graduates, she can come work at our company. Just forget about adopting. Honestly, I agree with her. It's better to deal with it sooner rather than later. I was about to speak up when Mr. Carter walked in. Enough! With a stern face, he said something that sent chills down my spine. Don't think being biologically related means the company will be handed to you. If you're feeling the pressure, then work harder for it. Isabella's eyes widened, and she gave me a look full of malice. You've played your cards well, Maya. I wanted to explain before this misunderstanding took root in her mind, which would be dangerous for me. Never underestimate rich people and their ability to manipulate, but Mr. Carter didn't give me a chance. He said, Maya, do what you need to do. Isabella, listen carefully. In life, if you don't work hard, you'll be eliminated. You only get one chance at this. He threw a school application in Isabella's face. Go or don't, it's up to you. Isabella sneered while picking up the admission notice. Fine, fine. You guys are something else. She stormed out, but not before I caught the frightening look in her eyes. My heart sank. She might try to harm me after she left. Mr. Carter didn't say much to me either. He just muttered, Can't teach an old dog new tricks, and walked away. I went back to my room alone, my heart still racing. The past and present intersected in my mind, and a troubling thought arose. Could I just be a tool for Mr. Carter? In the past life, he might have used my brother, and now me, to motivate Isabella. But analyzing further, my brother was too much of a playboy in the past to have been a real threat. So what was the plan? Surely Mr. Carter doesn't intend to pass the company to me. Impossible. He isn't even letting me go to school. Confusion and uncertainty lingered. I really felt the looming danger, like something was closing in. I needed to get out of here before Isabella made a move against me. Just as I was considering how to leave, my phone buzzed with a new message. It was from my brother. He posted something about me, along with pictures of test papers, all with great grades, captioned, Hard work pays off. Harvard is only a step away. Looks like studying is the only way out. Sis, how are you? Maya, I snorted and replied, I'm great. You should study hard and aim to work at Carter's group someday. That's the plan. I'll make the most epic comeback and not let Mr. Carter down. Can't believe he had the nerve to reply, completely oblivious to Isabella's constant scrutiny of us both, afraid any drama might splash onto him. But it makes sense. He's too focused on just stepping on me. After Isabella's homecoming episode, I stayed indoors, not even venturing out for packages. Isabella seemed genuinely affected and actually enrolled in school. I vaguely remember Mr. Carter coming home, cursing about Isabella finally having a revelation and attending a school even better than Ethan's. Though he cursed, it was clear he was really pleased. From this moment, I knew for sure that no one, no matter who gets adopted, would replace Isabella in his heart. There's no such thing as falling out of favor because nobody was ever favored to begin with. I'm convinced now that the whole drama was a setup, but that's not what matters. The key is I can breathe a little easier now. Why? Because Isabella's high school is super strict with its closed campus policy. Time flies by. A year later, which is when Ethan and Isabella were halfway through their sophomore year, Mr. Carter invited my brother over. We hadn't seen each other for a year. When he showed up, my brother gave me a cold once-over. After everyone else left, he stood right in front of me. Sis, I heard you're so scared you won't even step outside. Afraid of being kidnapped? Don't worry, you're not important enough for that. My smile didn't quite reach my eyes. Weren't you not important enough in your past life yet got kidnapped anyway? That was different. How so? Was Isabella the one who kidnapped you? His eyes widened. How did you know? It's obvious to anyone with half a brain, but you wouldn't get it. You're insulting me. I'm telling you, my grades now are way beyond anything you achieved back then. He sneered with gritted teeth. Your past glory. This time around, it's mine. Glory can be created anytime. Grabbing it is one thing. Holding on to it is the real deal. What do I need to hold on for? You can't even go to school. Take entrance exams, like you could ever beat me. I smirked. Who knows what fate has in store, right? You're killing me here. If you could change fate, I'd drop dead in front of you. Can't you see? In the decision-making moment, you lost. Mr. Carter appreciates those who choose education. Why else would he invite me back now for dinner? Last time you came back, it was after graduation, right? I got you beat by 5 years. So? I said nonchalantly. His eyes went red with anger. Maya, I hate that calm attitude of yours. You make me sick. You're here? So? What are you two talking about? Mrs. Thompson walked up to us. My brother immediately put on an innocent face. Oh, nothing, Auntie. My sister and I were just chatting about how proud he is of my grades. He even said I'm for sure getting into Harvard and changing my fate. Harvard isn't something you just talk your way into. Isabella showed up with a cold expression. My brother quickly sucked up to her. Miss, you're right. I heard you've been doing pretty well at school lately. What? Did you have someone looking into me? My brother backpedaled into his own trap. No, my sister told me. Another splash of mud thrown my way courtesy of my brother. I shrugged innocently but said, he asked, pestered me about your grades, even said he'd outdo you. You called her. Isabella's face grew darker by the second. What did he say? Said you're spoiled that you'd flunk out sooner or later without a solid foundation. Isabella's face turned downright angry. Ethan, are you looking for trouble? Ethan was so scared he nearly surrendered. I never said those things, Maya. Stop framing me, miss. Ethan's young. He doesn't think before he speaks. Don't lower yourself to his level. I took my opportunity to metaphorically stomp on my brother's head one more time. Tit for tat in the mudslinging game. Ethan, Isabella declared, mark my words. I'm going to surpass you in the entrance exam. Your measly scores are nothing against targeted exam predictions. My school has a top-notch teaching crew. His challenge wasn't just hot air. Ethan wanted to defend himself. But with Isabella as untouchable as she was, words failed him, especially when Mr. Carter strolled in like a lifesaver. He quickly offered up a huge stack of test papers. Mr. Carter, thanks for your support. These are my grades to show my gratitude for your help. Mr. Carter flipped through them, nodding approvingly. Isabella, take note. Look at him. I could barely hold back a laugh. Trying to polish his own image backfired as he buried himself deeper under a pile of dirt. Instead, with the grades in hand, what should have been a dull dinner turned into a critique session. Mr. Carter showered praise on my brother, even promising him a future management role if he kept up his grades. My brother, at a loss whether to smile or cry under Isabella's murderous glare, unwittingly absorbed all the dislike meant for me. For the next 6 months, my brother's phone activities dwindled noticeably, or maybe his viewing access was getting gradually more restricted. One day, as I was watching TV at home, Mr. Carter came in with a phone call. He glanced my way and said into the phone, "You're breaking our original agreement. It was only supposed to cover school fees. Everything else is on you." After a bit more back and forth, Mr. Carter covered the phone and asked me, "Maya, your brother's short on cash and wants to borrow some. Do you mind?" It was 2.5 years. In his past life, my brother got away with splurging until the end. This time, earning his own living costs with school pressure made him crack after 2.5 years. Yesterday, debt collectors began calling me. Turns out, he put me down as an emergency contact. I adjusted the TV volume and said with a grin, "Mr. Carter, I wouldn't agree." Mr. Carter nodded and said to the person on the other end of the line, "Figure it out yourself." Not long after the call ended, my brother messaged me, asking to borrow money. I'm a straightforward person. I prefer to block people directly. Time flew by, and 6 months passed. I couldn't even count how many debt collection calls I got during that time. Eventually, Mr. Carter started getting those calls, too, making him really angry. Just before the college entrance exams, Isabella, who had been quiet for half a year, unexpectedly reached out to me. "Remember our agreement? I suggest you leave my house as soon as possible. Otherwise, you'll be the next Ethan." I replied, "What do you mean?" I set a little trap for Ethan, and now he's caught in the world of money. He's in debt over $2 million, and he won't pay it off in his lifetime on his own. I know you might not fall for this, but I have my ways of dealing with you. You better take care of yourself. I just replied, I'll leave after the miss. Don't forget the support you promised me. That evening, while I was packing up my exam materials, Mr. Carter walked in. Maya, don't go to the exams. Why not, Dad? Do you want to embarrass yourself? Your brother has already disgraced me. His grades have plummeted, and he's in debt up to his ears. Dad, you have to trust me. I can get good scores. You think you're capable? You haven't even attended school properly or read your books. You think you're a genius? That's enough. Don't talk anymore. I've made up my mind. You're not going tomorrow. Just stay home. Mr. Carter had a stern face the whole time and left after saying that. He muttered as he left, I misjudged. Sigh. The next day before dawn, I had packed my test papers, ready to sneak out, but I found that my room door was locked tight. No matter how hard I pushed, I couldn't open it. I couldn't leave through the window. I was on the 12th floor. Mom, please unlock the door. I quickly sent a WeChat message to Mrs. Thompson. She came to the door and said, Maya, listen to your dad. Don't go. Your dad is under a lot of pressure right now. People are saying he sponsored 2 useless people. Mom, I'm not useless. Please believe me. Mom, this is my only chance. If I don't take the exam today, my future is over. Mom, I want to live. Mrs. Thompson was silent for a long time. Finally, I heard the door unlock. She stood by the door and sighed. Why do you insist on this path? Maya, even if you go to a technical college. If you choose to go to school, we can't support you at home. Aren't you making life hard for yourself? I didn't say a word and just grabbed my exam things and ran. Stop, Maya, I'm telling you. If you walk out this door, I'll immediately disown you as my adopted daughter. Mr. Carter appeared out of nowhere and shouted sternly. I turned towards them and bowed. Mom, Dad, thank you for all your care. I am going to walk my own path now. After saying that, I ran towards the exam site. Outside the exam venue, my brother spotted me. You heartless thing. What are you doing here? I'm here to take the exam. An exam? Maya, are you trying to make me laugh to death? He then shouted, Hey everyone, take a look. The city's richest man, Mr. Carter's adopted daughter, is here for the exam. With my brother's debt scandal, Mr. Carter had been in the media spotlight. Reporters at the exam site, upon hearing about the adopted girl, started pointing their cameras at me. They mocked, We've heard the adopted daughter isn't even allowed to go to school. Maya, are you sure you're here for an exam? Your foster father has been reduced to nothing, and everyone says he lacks judgment. Are you here today to make him look even worse? A foster father is still a father. We think you should be grateful and stay home with him, not be out here embarrassing him. Reporters kept mocking me. The students taking the test started laughing too. This is hilarious. Skipping school for so long and now showing up for the exams, living the high life, huh? Think you're a prodigy now? Can't stand people like that giving up their future just to live like a rich kid. My brother was smug. Exactly. He can't handle any hardship. Give me a break. You can talk. Do you not realize how much money you owe? I shot back with a sneer, frustrated. He pointed at me and said, No matter what, I'm better than him. Just watch. If he scores over 300, I'll eat my hat. I walked into the exam room amidst the chatter. Honestly, I was being ridiculed the whole time, and some people even spat at me. Isabella approached me, handing me some mock exam papers. Memorize these questions. Maybe you'll scrape by with a technical college. No need, Maya. I'm telling you, if you score 0, you better get out of the Carter house. Don't worry, I won't be going back after today. During my years in the Carter household, I had been saving $50K a month, and I had hardly touched it. I've got enough to cover my expenses for a few years and even fund a startup. So, going to college, even if Isabella doesn't stick to the agreement and doesn't give me money, it doesn't matter. I'm ready to cut ties with them. You're shining a little too brightly. Haven't you looked around at what people are saying about you today? Calling you a waste and all? I didn't respond, but just left her with, Take good care of your parents. They truly love you. Everything they prepared was never meant for anyone else. Ding, ding, ding. I turned around after saying that, ignoring Isabella's shocked expression. Instead, I wiped the spit off my face and ran into the exam room. As I expected, the questions were exactly what I remembered. I finished the exam in half the allotted time and walked out. I ended up being surrounded by reporters again. The funny thing was, they were there to interview the first person who came out of the exam hall, wanting to ask about the difficulty of the test. Seeing it was me, the reporters halfway through running just stopped. With a sarcastic tone, they said, "Why take the exam if you don't know anything? How long has it been and already out? Is she trying to ride on the hype of being the first to leave the exam hall? Let's not interview her. Don't fall for her trick." A bunch of reporters looked at me with sideways glances as I walked further away. For the next several days of exams, in every subject, I was the first to leave the hall. This time, the internet went crazy. Everyone was insulting me, saying I should be expelled, saying I just wanted to ride the wave of attention from the exams, saying I'm shameless. I lay on the hotel bed, silently enduring these temporary misunderstandings and insults. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Emmy's. "Lucy, Maya, are you done with exams? Come home. I made your favorite braised pork." I stared at the simple line of text for a full 10 minutes. "Mom, I'm not coming back. Just waiting to start college." "Don't say that. Your dad's not mad," she said. "He said the exams are your choice, and he supports you. See, he hasn't even issued a statement about disowning you, right?" Honestly, something inside me couldn't help but be moved. But Mom, tell Dad I won't let him down. I'll come back successful. While waiting for the results, the internet's attacks on me never stopped. They got harsher and nastier until the scores were released. As expected, my grades were hidden. In the end, I scored 741, almost a perfect score, taking the top spot. Then the internet really blew up. My story and photos flooded every short video platform. The top 10 hot searches were all about me. Of course, someone immediately claimed I cheated or had access to the test questions ahead of time. Officials quickly investigated, but the results showed I hadn't cheated. I was clean. To avoid suspicion, my exam papers were even released. The internet was shocked, amazed at how I could be so skilled. The experts who wrote the questions were not only shocked but also at a loss, because my answers were flawless, impeccably standard. They even made videos overnight analyzing my answers, calling me a once-in-a-millennium genius who must be nurtured. They also particularly mentioned the Carter family, saying Mr. Carter has a keen eye, recognizing a prodigy at a glance. That night, Mr. Carter and Mrs. Thompson called. "Maya, you, Mr. Carter stammered, struggling to find words. "Dad misunderstood you and nearly ruined your future." "It's fine, Mr. Carter. I thought a lot before choosing to call him that." There was silence on the other end. "So you're not ready to forgive me?" "It's not that, Mr. Carter. It's because I didn't keep our agreement. Our foster relationship automatically ends when I succeed. I'll repay you." Mr. Carter is a smart man and quickly caught my drift, saying, "All right, Maya, the doors of the Carter Corporation will always be open for you." The next morning, I got a piece of news. My brother died in a car accident. They said he failed his exams and was wandering the streets when a drunk driver hit and killed him. So some things just shouldn't be said lightly. Since I was his only direct relative, I got a large sum of compensation. As for Isabella, since the exam results came out, she hasn't contacted me. I don't know why, but after I started college, I began receiving $8,000 monthly. This life unexpectedly went back on the track. Now, what I think about most is, should I work for Carter Corporation after graduation? Will Isabella still guard against me? I smiled. When you get to the bridge, it'll naturally straighten out. As long as I stay true to myself, destiny is mine to control.